10 millimeter versus 44 Magnum in Revolvers. Heavy boys today. We got some heavy ammunition, as heavy as I can go with these two calibers. So our 10 millimeter is a Underwood 200 grain XTP. Our 44 Magnum is also an Underwood, and that is a 300 grain XTP. I've been curious a long time for how well a 300 grain would perform. I haven't tested one yet, other than like hard cast bullets, but a 300 grain hollow point, that is one heavy hollow point. So I've been curious for a long time. So I'm going to use my 4-inch revolvers today, my 4-inch model 610 to test the 10 millimeter, and my 4.25-inch model 69 to test the 44 Magnum. And I know what a lot of people are thinking, well, that's not fair because the sectional density is off, and these are essentially the heaviest hollow points that you can get, period. You can't really make it fair. In order to make that 10 millimeter fair, would have to be a 260 grain to have the same sectional density as that 44 Magnum, and that's not going to happen. But our 10 millimeter is rated at 1250 feet per second. Our 44 Magnum is rated at 1300 feet per second. I highly doubt we're going to get that with the 44, because I think it is rated to a 6-inch barrel, as where our 10 millimeter I think is rated to a 5-inch auto, so we might get close to that. But we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. We're going to go into plain clear ballistic to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. No denim in the way or anything like that to clog a hollow point. Just going to go into plain clear ballistic, see what we get. And then after that, we're going to do more of a real world simulation where I have 4 layers of sweatshirt material on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, we'll have a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum. That'll be our real world simulation. So we'll do a plain clear ballistic shot, a real world simulation shot, and then I'm going to shoot at the steel, see what kind of practical shootability, what kind of recoil these things have. So let's get started with this test. All right, I'm about 5.5 yards from the target. First up, we have our 10 millimeter auto, 200 grain rated at 1250 feet per second. I have a feeling we're not going to quite get that, but let's see what we get here with our 10 millimeter. How close we get to 1250 feet per second. $12.20, $12.71, $12.82, $12.66, $12.68. So I was wrong. I was hoping that that's what we were going to get, is about rate of velocity, because science would say that, you know, a heavier bullet should seal the cylinder gap longer amount of time and get at least that rate of velocity, because the internal travel of this is a little bit more than a 5-inch semi-auto. So with this, I'm expecting a lot of recoil. I'm going to go single action with this because, you know, when you shoot double action revolvers, double action, you know, one of the things you're trying to do is, you know, not squeeze too hard so you can get a nice trigger press, but then when the recoil happens, kind of grip it really hard so it doesn't fly out of your hands. If you're off in timing a little bit, you will anticipate that recoil, jerk the shot, and that's not something I want to be doing going over the chronograph and into the ballistics block. So we're going to go single action with this, right at 1300. We're not going to get that, but let's see what we get, see how this recoil is in a gun like this. $11.87. I pulled that one kind of high. I'm going to grab my glove here real quick. I just remembered that with this gun, sometimes you get some a little bit of flames coming out the cylinder gap. It's kind of uncomfortable, but yeah, I pulled that one really high. Again, that's anticipating that recoil, and part of that was because I moved my thumb to not get burned. So this next shot should be more accurate. Let's see what we get here. $11.68. $11.52, $11.80, $11.33. So that's actually better velocity than what I thought we were going to get. I was thinking we were going to get like 1,000 or something. Case ejection on these is not that good, but that's what happens sometimes with warm ammo loads. So let's hit our ballistics gel block, see how these two compare. All right, first up, we're going to go into plain clear ballistics, just our plain clear ballistics shot to see what the best potential is. Sometimes denim and fabric will clog hollow points and prevent hollow point expansion. I don't think it's going to be a thing with cartridges this powerful, but I like to stay consistent. So let's see what we get here with our 10 millimeter and playing clear ballistics. All right. Now I think we're probably going to get a lot of penetration here with this 44 mag. I don't think it'll go through both blocks, but we'll see what we get here. 44 mag. All right, let me just go one more shot because it looks like it went out of the block and then skirted along the side of the block, so it's not actually penetrating through that second block. It's just ripping on the side. I was just off just a little bit, so it exited the block. So I'm going to go slightly more center of that block, 44 mag. See if we can catch this. Let's go take a look. All right, so to be honest here, I knew it was going to penetrate a lot further. The 44 was going to penetrate a lot further than the 10 millimeter, but I did not think that while doing that, it was going to produce a greater amount of energy dump and tearing, but it did. I thought we would see as big of damage with our 10 millimeter and less with our 44, because I thought our 44 wouldn't expand very much. It would gradually expand and not do a ton of damage, but it did a lot of damage, a lot more than that 10 millimeter. I'm very surprised to see that. Both of them performed pretty consistently with those 244 mag shots. Our 10 millimeter, we went to about 16 3/4 inches of penetration and then rolled back. Typically when we get roll back, it means that bullet is expanded over 65 hundredths of an inch. So yeah, we got 16 3/4. Now when we look at our 44 mag, we have some little bit of expansion. It's not great expansion, but it's consistent expansion. But we got a penetration. This is kind of what I was thinking we were going to see. We got about 30 3/4 inches of penetration. A lot of penetration. So let's put on our fabric, put in our rib simulation, see how they continue to compare that way. All right, 4 layers of sweatshirt material, 3 inches of clear ballistics to represent a pectoral muscle, 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum. Let's see what we get here with our 10 millimeter auto. All right, let me set that back up and then we'll hit it with the 44 Magnum. All right, real world simulation 44 Magnum. Let's see what this does. Let's go take a look. All right, both had good energy dump despite, you know, having that fabric in the way. Here is our medium density fiberboard. The bigger one on the bottom, bigger hole, is through with our 10 millimeter. So that expanded out right away. With our 44 Magnum, we're not getting quite as much expansion right away. But even so, this is some of the largest damage I've ever seen in clear ballistics. I always think it's funny when people will be like, well, you cannot see damage in clear ballistics. You can't see this. What I'm seeing is a lot of striation cutting. You see that a lot of times from hollow points expanding and cutting like that and just ripping through with such force that it causes striations like that. So we got a ton of damage with that 44 mag. But what we got going on with our 10 millimeter auto is we got a penetration of about 20 1/4 inches. A little bit of over penetration, but I would say overall our 10 millimeters got pretty good penetration for what it is for being a 200 grain. I would say it's a pretty good personal defense round. Our 44 Magnum, we have just a hair less than what we had through our plain clear ballistic shot. We got about doing a lot of quarters today, 29 1/4 inches. So definitely, again, a lot of penetration. It's hard to see if that really has much expansion going on there, but both of them, you know, the 44's really penetrated a lot. So You know, I found this fun. This is not really a fair comparison. This is not a comparison to say which one is the better self-defense cartridge. The point of this test was I wanted to test that 44 mag 300 grain, and I'm going to test it. And I love doing comparisons. So what's the closest I can get in weight in a 10 millimeter? That was 200 grain. So we can definitely see here though, you know, one of these is a good personal defense cartridge. This would still be a personal defense good one, but it would also be a good dangerous animal round. And this is one of those things, there's always exceptions to rules. You know, getting over penetration is often bad because you're not dumping the energy in the target, and you know, you're getting over penetration because you're not getting expansion or whatever. This is an exception where this has a ton of damage, and just the fact that it passed through makes no difference in what it did here. You know, that's not a rule for all cartridges to go by, because a lot of times over penetration means you're doing less damage in here, but this is a little bit different. Very interesting performance. So let's pull these out of the block. We'll take a close-up look at it, and then I'll show you our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through plain gel. Here's our 10 millimeter auto. Really fantastic expansion, really big expansion, a lot bigger than what you would think an XTP could expand to. Really big expansion with our 10 millimeter. Our 44 Magnum, we had some pretty good expansion, consistent expansion. How long that bullet is, that is one heavy chunk of bullet. And most of that bullet is in the case. And that's one thing that people bring up sometimes. They're like, well, 300 grain, it won't fit my revolver. But, you know, they pretty much load this to the same overall length as a 240 grain. They just put the extra bullet in that case. So there's a little bit reduced powder capacity to get that pressure on. Now when we look through our medium density fiberboard, things change up a little bit here with both these. Not a lot, but a little bit. 10 millimeter. We have a little bit more controlled expansion going through our fabric and our medium density fiberboard. Not bad overall. Looks pretty good. Just a little bit smaller than through our plain gel, which makes the bullet a little taller. 44 Magnum, this didn't change a whole lot. You know, one side of that bullet had some kind of weird expansion where it didn't want to fully expand as good as it could have. But pretty consistent going through our fabric and medium density fiberboard versus through plain gel. So there's your close-up look at those bullets. All right, 25 yards from the target. I decided to come back to 25 because I don't want to be at like 12 yards like I normally do. You know, heavy bullets, you know, they tend to want to bounce off that steel and come back a little bit further than lighter bullets. You know, every bullet you shoot at a piece of hardened steel like that will come back a little bit. Like a 9 millimeter will bounce back maybe 3 feet and hit it, land on the ground. Stuff like this, 300 grain, it might come back 10 feet. So I want to stay back a little bit further. So let's see what we get here with our 10 millimeter from 25 yards. I'm just going to try to hit the steel as fast as I think I can hit it. So 10 millimeter. And we're getting that thing again where after firing about 10-12 rounds, this thing starts to get slightly sticky in double action. So 44 mag, same thing. Fast as I think I can hit the target. Take good this. I'm going above the target. Let me aim below the target a little bit. I'm gonna go single action and see where this is hitting. Wow. This is hitting way off. Like I had to aim below the target just a little bit, a couple inches to be able to hit that. So those first shots of double action, you know, yes, I'm anticipating recoil, but not to the point where if I'm aiming center, it's going to hit completely above the target. So interesting there. Let me back up just a little bit and fire off some rounds for fun, or I guess a hunting simulation scenario. All right, 75 yards from the target. See if I can hit the steel. Kind of a hunting scenario. And that's one thing about this 10mm revolver. A lot of people didn't understand why I got it. They're thinking either I'm trying to, you know, swap this out for a Glock 20 for self-defense or for bear defense, and that's not why I got this. I got this because it is really the best SHTF option out there, because you can shoot a lot of 40 Smith & Wesson through it, which is cheap. All kinds of 40 Smith & Wesson. You can shoot light 10mm through it, but then you can also put 200, 220 grain rounds in this that don't always function well in some automatic pistols. So you have a lot you could do with this, and this is one of those things, putting a 200 grain round in it and having it be very reliable and hopefully accurate. So this thing do from 75 yards, or 10mm single action here. All right, not too bad overall. Looks like I was hitting kind of low at first, and then I started holding right at the top of the shoulders, and they hit a little bit more consistently where I wanted them to go. So 44 mag. Don't be surprised if this jumps over the target by like 10 feet. The parallax of that camera is weird down there. You know, that hill is probably 50 feet, but the parallax of that downrange camera will make it look like that entire hill's like 20 feet tall. So it doesn't pick it up quite right to what I'm seeing, but let's see what I can do here. See where these hit for me. 44 mag, 300 grain. Yeah, way above the target. Let me aim at the very base of the target. Don't know where they're going. Let me aim about 3 feet below the target. All right, I got the right elevation now. 3 feet below the target. I did pull it a little bit though, so I jerked that shot to the left. So keep trying here. Again to the left, but we figured out the right elevation. That's the one thing people don't understand. There, a lot of times they're like, how high did you aim to hit? And a lot of times I'm aiming low, because with stuff like this especially, I think you're getting a lot of muzzle jump before the bullet leaves the muzzle, because there's so much power. Even though we got decent velocity, I mean, it is jumping. Also, it could be anticipating recoil, could be causing that to happen as well. I see it with really heavy rounds like this. I also see it with very slow rounds that are heavy, like 158 grain 38 special, where, you know, they're hitting way above the target, and I have to actually aim below the target to hit it. So with this, you know, you gotta know what you're doing. You gotta have a good revolver to shoot this stuff. All that being said, the recoil on this was not as brutal as what I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be like super painful to shoot. Actually, it wasn't too bad overall. It wasn't a whole lot different than the 240 grain, just basic 240 grain Hornady custom. Not a lot different. You have a little bit more muzzle jump, but actual foot pounds that you're feeling in your hand didn't feel any worse to me. So I got to get out and test it. I've been wanting to test it for a long time, just wanting to get out and do it. And what I'm seeing here is kind of what I thought, but what I was going to see. But it's fun to come out and see what we get. And also was pretty surprised at the level of damage that it caused. You know, you would think it would cause that much damage from overexpanding and stopping really quick, but no, it caused a ton of damage and still penetrated deep. So I would say this XTP 300 grain would be a really good cartridge for hunting, because it's going real deep and it's causing a ton of damage while still over penetrating. And that's really the hallmarks of a really good cartridge for hunting. Our 10mm here, very low recoil in a revolver like this. Pretty accurate, really good performance. I would say though, these are not even close in comparison to what they're meant for. Yeah, you could hunt with this 10mm. I think it would do okay, but really it's closer to the parameters of penetration and all that to a personal defense round, and it doesn't really have much more recoil in this revolver than a typical personal defense round. So I'd say it's a really good personal defense round. I would carry it, but our 44 mag, you might want to have a carbine to take advantage of a round like this. So interesting performance that you just get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.